Hi, to VA or not to VA? That's the question. And I get this question about, Jan, why should I belong to a voluntary association? And I get it especially from the candidates when they start applying for their professional registration. Because one of the questions in the documentation is, do you belong to a voluntary association? And then you have to share that knowledge. Now I get the question, but why should I belong to a voluntary association? So I thought, let me put it a bit in perspective and let's have a realistic look at it and see what the benefits are. Should you belong to one? Shouldn't you belong to one? I've got my personal opinions about it, but I think you should be able to formulate your own opinion regarding this matter. So there are quite a few voluntary associations, and let me just explain the difference. You've got different types of voluntary associations. Now, we're talking about learned societies. Those are your individual voluntary associations where you as an individual belongs to them. Say, for instance, you're a civil engineer, then you will obviously apply and belong to SAICI, South African Institute of Civil Engineer or Engineering. Then you have SAIMECI, which is South African Voluntary Association for the Mechanical Engineers, and you've got SAIE, South African Institute of Electrical Engineers, and so it carries on. And that's your category A, also referred to as learned societies, and that's your individual ones. Then you also got a category B type of voluntary association. Those are business organizations. Those are your CSAS, your Consulting Engineers South Africa, and the companies, not the individuals, the companies belong to those organizations. You also do have very few, I haven't come across many of them of late, and those are blended. In other words, companies can belong to that organization and individuals can belong to them as well. So it's basically a blended type of organization. So those are your main ones that you should be aware of. So, and I'm going to interrupt myself here. If you doing your CPD or continuing professional development, you can claim 1 CPD credit for belonging to a voluntary association. This is important now. You cannot claim, if your company belongs to Consulting Engineers South Africa, you cannot claim for your 1 credit from belonging to them, because you as an individual don't. So you will then claim from SAICI for your 1 CPD credit, which you can have every year. So let's get back to the point. Let's put it in perspective. Let's first look at why should you belong to a voluntary association? What's the benefit of belonging to them? Well, your first one is professional networking. That is getting the exposure to dealing with other like-minded, same category, same discipline individuals, and you get more exposure, you get opportunity to sell yourself, if I can say that, to your peers. You know what's going on in the industry, so that's quite a good one. A second benefit would be your voluntary associations are also licensed bodies, which means they can do CPD validations, but they're also service providers. So they know what kind of training you need, and they set it up. So there's a massive benefit in them setting up training and you attending those training courses from them. So that's a good one that you should bear in mind. And then also they look after your interest. It's called advocacy, maybe. They will bat on your behalf. They will interact with other organizations, sometimes even with government organizations, to look after your interest. So they basically representing you without you even knowing it. And remember that big saying, there's strength in numbers. In this case, strength in numbers goes a long way. And there's also multi-disciplines within those organizations that also looks after your interest. What is one of the major benefits that I also find is the fact that They produce documents and newsletters and guideline documents and contract documents and brilliant information that you need to be aware of, that they share with you if you're a member. And you can get a lot of mileage out of that. They also look at the contractual side of things, which I always think is very important, and they've got the expertise within those organizations to deal with the legalities of stuff. So that is also very important. And then being a professional and being recognized as such through a voluntary association also goes a long way. Just think for yourself, if you can put on your signature in your emails or in your documentation or tenders that you also belong to a voluntary association like SAICI, or one of those, then that goes a long way. And remember, they also have the capacity to look at modern advancements, keep you in touch with what's happening, while one should hope with artificial intelligence and then some. SAICI is very strong on that side of things. Tom McEwen and iconic people like that really makes a massive difference to their members. So you need to please bear that in mind as well. Now let's have a look at the, I don't want to say don't belong to, or maybe let's call it the resistance to not belonging to a voluntary association. The first one, and it's always been since I can remember, and I think this will carry on for a long time, is you pay money and you expect something back from that money. So it's the value proposition that they always talk about. And some individuals feel that the money that they invest in belonging to a voluntary association is not worth it. The value that they get for the amount of money that they pay is not worth it. And therefore, they decide they're not to belong to them. Now remember, it's a voluntary association. You choose to belong to them. It's not EXA, which is compulsory. If you want to be registered as a professional, you're registered at a council. So please bear that in mind. And then time commitment. If you want to belong to a voluntary association and you want to make a difference and really participate, then you need to have time to do that. And if you don't have time and you can't go through the documents and you find yourself in a situation where you literally just pay, but you don't go through the documents, you don't take that extra mile, you don't serve on the committees, you don't do any of that kind of stuff, because you don't have time for that, then that is obviously another, shall we call it, objection. Then we're spoiled for choice. There are so many platforms, so many organizations, private organizations, training providers that does CPD training, other organizations that share information with you. With the modern electronic platforms, there are so many places that you can go that you actually can get stuff free. So that makes it difficult. Look, they can't bat on your behalf. But those overlapping platforms are making it extremely difficult for engineers to decide to either belong or not to belong to a voluntary association. So that's another one. And if we get to number 4 on why you should maybe consider not belonging, it's that old story. Remember the VAs, voluntary associations, have been around the block for a very, very long time. And the new modern generation wants stuff to move fast. They want modern, they want new, they want to be acknowledged, they want to make a difference, they want to do all of those kind of things. But there are voluntary associations that I know of that literally are still stuck in the old ages, where they have not moved with technology, they have not embraced it and moved forward. There are some organizations that's literally tried to move with the times, but found themselves in a situation where they've actually gone backwards and they're using paper ways to do work. It's like an old, what do they call it? It's like a clique. It's like an old club that you belong to. And the perception then is created that there's no value for money or any of that. And if you are one of those organizations, I think you will push people away. You literally, you'll see your membership dwelling, you'll see your membership decreasing. So voluntary associations really need to step up to the plate if they want to be sustainable and if they want to attract the next generation and if they want to do all of those kind of things. There are even some voluntary associations that their websites are still hard-coded. You've got WordPress these days. So I think you get the idea where I'm going with this. So check which VA, if you want to belong to one, which one. So where does it leave you in this whole story? I think there's pros and cons. I think for me, the benefits outweigh the reasons not to join. I think from a professionally registered point of view, that one CPD credit that you get for belonging to a voluntary association every year goes a long way. So just that in itself also makes a massive difference. Then if you participate in the structures of the committee structures of the voluntary associations, then you can get more CPD credits for that as well. You've got access to training, so the scale literally tilts more towards belonging than not. But remember, that's me talking, and that is my convictions regarding this. Then, if you're serious about your career and you're serious where you're going as a professional, then it should be advisable that you should consider this seriously. Don't just look at the price. Look at what benefits and value can you get out of it. You're not an island, so it would be in your interest then to start thinking about, if I want to mingle a bit more, get more out there, get more value for what I do as a professional engineer, then you should seriously consider belonging to one. I think for the candidates who ask me this question often, I always advise them, and most of the companies pay for these voluntary associations. I usually advise them to register and put them through the test. Stay with them for a year. See if it blows your hair back. That might give you the answer. And if you truly feel you don't get the value out of it, and if you feel that this voluntary association is stuck in the mud and it's an old boys club, then steer away and go enjoy somewhere else. There's plenty available. Weigh the benefits up, and I think through that process you'll get a lot of clarity. On your application form, it goes a long way. Personal opinion. Also, you need to avoid unnecessarily questions from the panel. Say, for instance, you go through to the interview process and one of the interviewers say to you, so I see you don't belong to a voluntary association. Why not? What's the reasons for that? Then you have to be defensive and tell them why and blah, 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 and that creates a whole new debate which could have been avoided if you just on your application form and during that time belong to a voluntary association. Yeah, it's not the ideal most probably, but that's my advice. It's what I believe. So consider that and look at the structure. Look at the CEO. Look at the committee. Look at what they do and if they're very dormant, very quiet, steer far away. If they are not modern, do not run a mile away. If they don't embrace AI and if they don't, if they still use paper, then I think you should think very, very seriously about not belonging. But that's the other side of it. But it's a personal choice. You must decide what you want out of it. So there you have my take on the VAs. I am a little bit biased, I would say. I have had some good experiences with VAs, more so than others, but I've also had some bad experiences. So it's literally the good, the bad, and ugly that's out there. So a little bit of a job for you to go and figure out where you belong and where's your home, and you'll feel it if you interact with people that are there, and if you see what they're doing in the industry. Go to LinkedIn, go to places like that and see how active they are. That should give you some guidance on where to go. So good luck for the candidates. My advice would be part of that. For professionals, be part of it, even if you just get your 1 CPD credit per year. And if you want to make a difference, then obviously commit to their committee structures. And on that note, good luck and make the right choice. Thank you.